Welcome to episode 61. Yeah, that's right. Episode 61. Scott, I can't believe we've made it 61 episodes. It seems like we just started this thing yesterday.
Yeah, if you look back, it's actually been a couple of years. So I think to get to 61 with the quality of guests we've had and the topics that we've had, it's been, for me, it's been a success. I'm happy to keep doing it.
Well, and if people don't like it, they're getting what they paid for it, right?
Exactly.
So Scott's going to introduce our guest, and we're excited to have another awesome guest today. So Scott, why don't you kick that on?
Yeah, Jett Middleton is a freshman going into a sophomore year at University of Arizona. He grew up in Colorado, so we're going to hear a little bit about his junior development story, how he got to U of A, but we're also going to have just an open discussion on how college tennis can promote itself better and how we can get more spectators and more fans watching what we consider to be probably the best sports product available. So with that, let's go ahead and introduce Jett. Jett, welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you on the
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in tennis, and then how you ended up at University of Arizona.
Yeah, so I started playing tennis. I can't remember. Probably when I was 4 or 5 years old. My sister played at a pretty high level. She was a 5-star recruit. Ended up going to Baylor. So I learned from her, watched her play on the courts with my dad. My dad didn't play, but he got really into it, watched a lot of tennis, watched a lot of videos, how to get better, things like that. You know, typical tennis parent stuff, especially when you don't play tennis. He didn't really know a lot about the game, got me into it, and I fell in love with it a little bit more than her.
Where was this? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Columbine Valley, Colorado, so it's south of Denver.
Is it a suburb of Denver?
Yeah, it's a suburb of Denver.
Okay, and that's the Columbine that we all know, right?
Yeah, Columbine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but before we move on, one of the funny things is Scott's going to always bring something funny to every episode, right?
No.
So on one of the episodes, he had the progression of one of the guest hair, which I thought was awesome from the website. So today, Scott, why don't you show them the shirt you're wearing today, considering we've got an Arizona guest here with us?
Well, as you may know, I went to Arizona State, so it's a good rivalry, and I'm glad that he wasn't too afraid to come on after knowing that. But if an Arizona guy is going to come on wearing the A, I got to come on wearing the pitchfork. So
I love it. I love it.
I'm not afraid of it.
Well, I know you guys beat us this year, so you shouldn't be afraid. So.
Yeah. Well, the topic of the day today is surrounded around fan participation in college and really low level pro tennis. Right. This is something that Scott and I are real passionate about. We talk about it a lot. Scott's got a really good story where he went to, I think, a challenger, and it was like 2 people in the stands, and it was a good match. What was that match, and where was that?
Well, like I say, the first challenger event I went to was maybe 2015 or something like that, and it was in Lexington, Kentucky. And like I said, my son had just started playing tennis, and we were just sort of interested in what was going on. And we heard that there's this pro tournament, about an hour away in Lexington. So we decided to go over on a Monday night, and we think it's going to be, a full stadium, people there. And we walk in, and Jared Donaldson is playing this guy named James Ward. I think he played Davis Cup for Great Britain. So he was like one of the Great Britain's, 1 or 2 best players back in the time. And it was Jared Donaldson playing his first pro match. And in the stands, it was just me and Stefan Kozlov. And so, it was like there was nobody there but this other kid, and he's like 15 at the time, and just went, I think he just finished at Junior Wimbledon or something like that. So he was, making his entree onto the pro circuit. But, it was just amazing how few fans were there for such a high level match. And, I think we're starting to get a lot better participation at the college level. We had NCAAs were held in Orlando this past year. Jett, you guys were there as a team. Talk a little bit about how were and how things were from a production standpoint. I know it was on Tennis Channel. So what was the experience for you as a player, and what and the fan participation as well?
Well, I mean, obviously we played actually at Kentucky the first two rounds. We played
Right.
Michigan first round, and then we played Kentucky. So the first round, I mean, obviously it's the big stage. It's the biggest stage in college tennis. We're playing at Kentucky. We're playing Michigan, who obviously got a little bit robbed this year. They were ranked like 43 when we played them, and I think we were 17 in the country.
Right.
So we played them first round. Preseason, there were four.
Right.
So to go from 4 to 43 is a little weird. I think the ITA kind of messed up this year with the ranking of the Big Ten. Ohio State and Illinois, they were ranked really low, things like that. And especially with the individual rankings, they were all very low. So, playing them, it was like, wow, this is like a Elite Eight matchup right now for us. This is a big match. So, we had a lot of expectation going into that. We didn't know if that was going to be our last match or not. And we ended up squeaking out the win. And Kentucky did
at that match. So it's like I said,
you were
in Louisville, so I was able to
yeah.
got a lot of video, and that was a fantastic match. Like you say, it couldn't have been better because it came down to the number one court. Matches tied 3-3, and you've got your one versus their one, and it's basically who's the better heavyweight.
Well, we kind of got rolled in the doubles point, and then we had a big win at three in straights, which that was huge for him to get through that, and in straights was absolutely massive and get that first point on the board. And then we obviously had Alejandro, who's the veteran, at 5. That was a big win for us. And Carlos at 6, who, is extremely solid. He's probably the best 6 in the country, in my opinion. So, to get those 3 wins and just give Gustav a chance, because, Gustav's the freshman, and, he was with me in the dorms just like everyone else, and he was great this year. He was unbeatable for the most part. I mean, he didn't have a lot of losses. I think he had 4 or 5. So, we knew he was going to win. We just knew it.
That was super impressive that you guys made it through Lexington, because then you had to go and play Kentucky at home, and they have Draxel, number 1 in the country.
Yeah.
2 other guys that are top 30. So super tough and super impressive to get through that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to maybe move on to Orlando.
And
talk about, sort of how they dealt with spectators. I know that it was just that time when things were starting to open up a little bit with fans.
Yeah.
So how was the fan involvement there in Orlando?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, there was not a ton of fans. There was a lot of people from Tennessee, because we played Tennessee, there was a lot of Tennessee fans there. And there was actually a lot of U of A fans, like a lot of alums came out. A few people that, just had involvement with the University of Arizona came out, and they were loud. Like we had a lot of loud fans. I mean, we only had 2 matches this year where fans were allowed. And I would say that Orlando was a little bit louder than our home matches this year. And not because obviously we were only allowing a certain amount of fans those 2 matches for USC and UCLA, but Orlando was loud. It was a great atmosphere. It was really cool. I remember sitting watching Gustav when it was 3-3. He's last quarter on against Walton, and I was like, dude, this is amazing. Like, this is what you train for. This is what, the reason you work is to get to the stage and just to experience this stuff, whether you win or lose. Obviously we would have loved to win and it would have been ideal, but the fact that we even got to experience that as such a young team is truly amazing.
Yeah.
So,
and you guys are a young team. You'll be very good in the future.
Yeah.
But like I say, from the fans' perspective, we have to. At that point, the matches are only available on stream, I think.
Yeah.
So we had to stream them, and so it's just, like I say, it's just hard to be a fan of college tennis when there's no real broadcast of this great product until maybe just the finals.
They had. So I remember we were told that everything would be on Tennis Channel after once you get to the Elite Eight, everything's on Tennis Channel. Mm-hmm. And you almost look at it like, okay, well, if you compare it to, even baseball, baseball's not a huge college sport. It is once you get to the College World Series, but there's regular season, just small schools on, whether it's ESPNU or something like that, where they're being shown. And the fact that you're not showing the Sweet 16, let alone the Sweet 16, even the first 2 rounds, you should be showing that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the frustrating things is, we amended the scoring in college tennis to make it more marketable to TV rights. And then you have your conference networks. They're showing team cornhole over tennis. It's like we have a product that's will be done in 2.5, 3 hours. You can put it in that window. You have great, let's say the Big 12 network, Big 10, Pac-12. They don't show any college tennis at all. And it's just it's sort of we changed our game to make it more marketable, but there's just no interest. And I know it's hard to, and it's probably one of the more difficult sports to present because there are 6 courts going on at the same time and all that stuff. But it can be done. But it just seems like there's just not the interest. It's hard to get us you can't get on the conference networks. Where are you going to be?
Well, I think the facilities are what make it the most difficult. I think some facilities have a weird setup and it's kind of hard to like for instance Kentucky. I mean, you could do it at Kentucky. Right. You could do it. You have those first 2 courts which are perfect for live for and then you got the last 4 which you could easily set up some type of video. But I think like for instance at a school like Arizona where we have 4 and then 2 and kind of a space in between, I think that would be a little bit hard because there's nothing that you can really set up in between with the downslope of our courts and stuff like that. I think it would be hard. But you could figure it out. Like I went to, we have friends on the beach volleyball team and the beach volleyball matches were on Pac-12 and they have the very similar setup to tennis. So if you can do it for beach volleyball, you could do it for tennis. And I think a lot of people would enjoy how live and loud and intense college tennis is. Because if I was Tennis Channel, if I'm not putting these small 250s, first rounds on TV, I'm putting college tennis, whether it's replays or whether it's live. I'm just not doing it. I'm putting the college tennis on there because I guarantee you more people would tune into a ASU and U of A match, way more people than, a first round of a 250. So I think that's kind of it's kind of mind boggling how they haven't figured that out yet. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe it's something that they can try and figure out.
Well, here's the thing is one of the things I always say is with tennis being such a individualized sport, right? It's not much of a team sport till you get to college. A lot of the folks that are involved in tennis are used to handling their own business. Yeah. And it seems like that's translated into a lack of a fan experience, right? Yeah. The 2 guys who go to play the first round of the 250, they're worried about themselves. The coaches are worried about their players. And really nobody is thinking, well, what about the fans? And I even go back to colleges. I can't tell you how many college matches I would like to take my son to. And then I look and they're on Friday at 11 a.m. And I'm like, well, the kid's at school, the parents are at work. If you schedule that match for Friday at 11 a.m., that tells me you don't want fans there anyway, right? If you want fans there, you've got to put it at a time fans can show up. Put it at 6 o'clock at night, and I know they've got to travel. When you play on Friday, I know they got to travel to a Sunday match. But still, I've always told Scott, I just think tennis is set up in such a way that they don't care about the fans until the majors, right? And then you go to the U.S. Open, and it's like a tennis festival, right? But now you've played the Blue Gray in Montgomery, Alabama.
We didn't play it this year because of COVID, but I obviously because it was my first year, but they played it the last 2 years.
They're focused on the fan experience. I mean, when you show up, it's like a carnival. I told Scott the first time I went, I called him, I was like, you have got to come. This is like a tennis carnival. And then the second part is, so I think that the focus needs to be more on a fan experience. But the second thing is, I think you nailed it when you said the Tennis Channel. The Tennis Channel or somebody have got to get to the point where they allow us to get to know the players, right? Yeah. So here's the thing is, if there are all kind of famous socialites out there, the Kardashians are a good example. Why are they so famous? Because they were put on TV. Why do you know the name Honey Boo Boo, right? Because a camera crew followed her around and you watch her on TV, right? Yeah. I would love to see these colleges, if the Tennis Channel is not going to engage in this, the colleges take their college film crew and follow the team and create a semi-documentary for their YouTube channel. And as fans get to know the players, and then they see the players playing in those futures and challengers, they'll come because now that player's famous, right? But then you go into the futures and challengers, Scott is a tennis expert, right? I mean, if you want to know something about tennis, you ask Scott. But I'll text him and he knows where all the futures are, where all the challengers are. But I came from a different world, and more football, basketball type of, and everything's real regimented. The game's going to start at 7, right?
Yeah.
And in tennis, it's like, what time do they play? I don't know. What time will it be over? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they've got to be able to say the match, at least like at the US Open, not before 11 a.m. Right? At least I know, okay, I got to get there at 11 and then I'll get to watch. And so I think the futures and challengers have got to do a better job of having one location where they advertise, here's where all the futures are, here's where all the challengers are. If you want to come watch, here's all the information. But what happens is each of those challenger tournaments has their own website. They may or may not do a good job updating that website. And so fans get frustrated. It needs to be easy. Okay, here's where I go. This is what time it starts. Let's load the kids up and let's drive there, right?
Well, I don't know if you guys follow golf, but there's a thing called the Corn Ferry Tour. I think it's called the Web.com Tour or something like that now.
Right.
It's a different name, but they do a very good job of advertising. It's not like a lot of people show up, but they do a better job of advertising and people still watch. I mean, and the thing about futures and challengers that they need to do a way better job is they need to be in better places. Like, you can't have a challenger in the middle of, some random place in the US where no one lives, no one watches tennis. Like if I'm scheduling a challenger or a future, I'm scheduling it in Newport Beach, California, or LA, or Boca, Florida, like where a bunch of people like tennis, or in Texas where at nice clubs, like where people want to go. No one wants to go to like a 50-court facility that doesn't have a restaurant and bar. That's just for tennis. Like, no one wants to go. People want to go where the viewing is good, the viewing's nice, and there's a restaurant and bar where they can chill and relax, and that's how you get people to watch pro tennis.
Right. And
to
your point about location, in June the Futures Tour went Wichita, Tulsa, Champaign, Illinois. Those are nice. I don't know, Wichita. We were there. We almost got shot in Wichita, so I'm not going to talk about Wichita. But in Tulsa, we were there training. Our boys were there training at Tucker Tennis Academy during the same week that the Futures was there. And it was great. But I mean, it's Tulsa. It was hot as heck. It was 103 degrees every day. They had to stop play every day because it got so hot. But the club that they chose was like this old rundown club with 7 courts. It wasn't a great viewing experience. It was hard to see stuff. Like I say, it's nice for Tulsa to have that, and I think the players, they get used to it or whatever. But like you say, why isn't that in, say, Fort Worth or Dallas? A bigger city that you can attract more people to, and you can have people come in for that. It's just rough. And the ones that coming up in July, there are 3 futures in Illinois. It's Edwardsville and Champaign and Decatur. I mean, what's
and I would
I've been to Edwardsville for J1.
Yeah.
I would push back on that a little bit, because one of my favorite tournaments I've been to is the Challenger in Little Rock, Arkansas. Right.
Well, look, it's a good city.
Well, Little Rock, Arkansas is a lot different than Wichita, Kansas.
That's true. But they did a great job of advertising it. They had a social media presence. You knew when everything started. You knew when everything ended.
Exactly.
You knew it was real easy as a parent to load your child up and let's go to Little Rock for the day and watch matches all day. Hey, there was a future we went to one time. We showed up at 12 o'clock and no one was on the court. And we were new to tennis. It was about 5 years ago. My wife and I are walking around with our son, and we catch the person in charge, and they say, "Oh yeah, all the matches started at 8. They're already over." And I'm like, "You started matches on Saturday at 8 o'clock? That just tells me they don't want fans there. They're seeing their future tournament just like they're seeing a 12 and under junior tournament.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Let's just get the matches over with, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that's where the kids need to know the players and be telling their mom, I want to go see so-and-so, right? but no one knows them. I mean, you can take a player in the top 100. I bet you could take 10 players in the top 100 and walk around a good tournament and say, do you know who so-and-so is? And people will look at you and not even know who they are.
I bet if you went around US Open and said anyone outside the top 10 to 90% of those fans, they would know who they are.
Yeah.
Like I bet if you asked 90% of the fans at US Open who Herbert Hurkacek is, they would have no idea who he is. So I might have botched his name a little bit there, but he, like, no one knows who those people are. And I think the future is, I think it's hard to like sell that as, yeah, I want to go watch this guy who's 800 in the world. Like, it's not, that's a little unrealistic, but I think it's very realistic to say, okay, we're going to put it at this country club with 10 courts. Matches aren't going to start until 11. And we're going to serve food. We're going to have people walk. Like, we're going to sell tickets.
I agree. It has to be at a nicer place, and it has to have, like you say, that restaurant bar feel. So you can almost feel like it's like a date night where you can go.
Oh, yeah.
Have dinner, have a drink, watch some great tennis, and that kind of stuff. But, to your point about, maybe they're 800 in the world, but, they're 800 in the world, but it's Sam Riffetts, who just won NCAAs. It's Nathan Palmuth, who played #1 at ASU. It's Ryan Shane. It's great college tennis players.
Oh, yeah.
So if you follow college tennis, you're watching these guys trying to get out to the next step. And so, like I say, that tournament in Tulsa was, the tennis was incredible. But if you're looking just at rankings, it'd be like, who cares about these guys? But once you sort of know their stories, and that's where, like I said, Robert,
I didn't get to know
having some sort of
guys like Zeke Clark and stuff like that.
College has like a film, there's a film program in each college or whatever for the most part. They should have like a project is you follow the softball team around, you follow the tennis team around, you create a documentary, and that's your project for the year. And then that tennis team can use that, to recruit, to, show their fans. And then that way, there's some more engagement with the things. And I think it's a win-win for the school, for the program, for the team.
Yeah, I think a lot of schools are starting to do that with, like their highlight tapes and stuff like that. Yeah. I think schools are doing a good job. I mean, I think it's a little bit different at Arizona. I mean, I would say Clancy likes to keep it blue collar, not spoil us. So we try to stay away from that stuff, but I think other schools that are doing it, it's great for them. But it's blue. We're blue collar at Arizona.
Oh yeah, but that's not done. Hold on 1 second, Robert. With Clancy, how do we know Clancy Shields, Robert?
We know him from the movie that what is it, Unstrung?
Unstrung, yeah. Unstrung.
I mean, I remember when we went to Montgomery to Blue Gray and Clancy was there, my son looked at him like he was a celebrity because he'd seen him in Unstrung, right? Yeah. And so I just don't think the Tennis Channel and the tennis world realize the importance of the relationships that fans build with the players through video, right? Now to add to it, I don't think there's enough futures and challengers for people to even go to. Noah Rubin, here's a tweet he put out yesterday. He said, it's been about 1.5 years since Indian Wells was canceled. For male players in the qualifying of the Open that would appreciate a tune-up, in quotes, a tune-up event for somebody outside the 250 so they can get some points. He said there's one future and 0 challengers for the whole month of August, right? So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if I want to take my child, because there's what do baseball parents do? They say, is there a AAA game? Is there a AA game? Is there a major league game I can take my child to, right? They pull it up on the website. They can see the team's website when all the games are, and they take them, right? Yeah. They're parents of players of any sport want to take their child to see the top of the game. And that doesn't mean number 1 in the world. That could be number 1,000 in the world. Number 1,000 in the world is still really good, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but in tennis, you try to pull that up on the web, where would you even look?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, even with this new app that ATP Tour got that's supposed to like make the relationship with the players stronger because they're doing the news and stuff like that. I think it's terrible. I think you have to have because the stories that they're putting on there are irrelevant. It's like how Djokovic has won his 21st major and like what he's done. It's like, dude, no one cares about, like, people care about that, but like more people want to learn what's going on at the challengers in the futures. I think the lower events just need more shine. I mean, it's hard also when you're paying guys like $100 to lose in the first round and stuff like that. Like they're not making anything. And when you compare it to like the Korn Ferry Tour in golf, like golf, they make good. Like if you're making the cut in Korn Ferry Tours, you're making a decent amount. Like you're making enough to, stay on the tour. and tennis, you're not. If
Well,
you're playing.
And in golf, there's an event every single week. I mean, like the web.com tour, we've got a guy that I coached against that is from 45 minutes away. His name's Chad Ramey. He played at Mississippi State, and he's on the web.com tour right now. Every single week, he's got an event. There's 52 a year. He could play one every single week if he wants to, right? And so that's why I say there's not enough challengers. If I want to take my child to a future or a challenger, and I want it to be in driving radius, there's like one a year I can take them to.
Yeah, I think it's scheduling also, but it's also like they're just not giving enough opportunities to the players. I think the players, like if I'm ATP Tour, I'm scheduling as many challengers and futures in each country as possible. Like each big country, like in South America, I'm scheduling futures and challengers. In the US, I'm scheduling a bunch of, and even if you put some in Mexico, that's fine. But just where it's not like you have to go to Europe. If you live in America and you have to go to Europe, 3 months out of the year, it's very tough on not only your bank account, but just you as a person. Like it's hard to do that.
And then play your best tennis, right?
Yeah. And especially when it's on, red clay that you've never played on. Like most Americans have never stepped foot on a red clay court. I know I've never stepped foot on a red clay court. Right. So I couldn't imagine what these guys, are going through when they have to play five or six futures a year on red clay. Yeah. They've never played on before.
One other thing that, is maybe popping up, and I see a lot of these tournaments are being promoted in, say, the Atlanta area and Boca Raton through UTR. Is that something you're seeing in Southern California as well?
Well, I'm actually playing one tomorrow. So I'm playing a 25K UTR. It starts tomorrow. And I'm going to play, there's two weeks in a row. I'm going to play both of those. And these are really good tournaments, and you get paid a lot, good money. I mean,
is the payday better than at a futures?
Oh, I mean, you're guaranteed. It's really good for juniors. I don't know. I haven't played a ton of futures, so I've just played 3 in Cancun, and I lost in qualies in every single one. So, and that was when I was like 16 years old. So I personally think these are a lot better because you're guaranteed $100 per match, and you get a guaranteed 5 matches. So that's 500 matches, and every match you win, you get a certain amount more.
Wow, like last one, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I made
who runs that?
UTR. So I know Alec Admonson, who played at UC Davis. He was playing pro tennis for a while. He was a good doubles player. He runs a lot of them. I don't know exactly who is the tournament director of each of them, but also they're live streamed on YouTube. So the scoring, they've got refs that call your calls, and they're all live streamed on YouTube. They're very easy to access, and it's good. It's through a nice play site camera. It's nice to view. It's got the scoring, everything.
Send me the link or whatever for that, and we can put it out. And I'm sure that I'll check in at some point. Just see what's going on. But it's amazing what they're doing. But again, it's under the radar.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. If you're a fan, if I'm a parent, if there's a parent listening and they want to take their child, how would they find this? Is there one website?
It's hard. It's hard. No, it's hard. You got to you got to go through the tournament schedule on UTR. You got to click on the tournament, and then you got to go down some. You got to go to the overview and click on the live stream. And then you got to figure out where it is if you want to take your kid there. Right. So I think if I'm UTR, I'm, tweeting this out, putting it on Instagram, I think it's 2021. We got to be able to use social media to our advantage. I mean, social media can be a very great thing, especially for sports. You can endorse it way more than they're doing right now. I think UTR is doing a really good job. I think UTR I think UTR will take over the USTA. I just don't think USTA is working hard at trying to endorse tennis. I think UTR is, though. I think UTR is doing a really good job.
Well, do you remember the old USTA app that when you wanted to play tournaments? How good was that app?
I mean, I think I'm a business major, and I took one coding class. I think I could make that app right now. Now, I mean, it was very simple, very easy to sign up for tournaments, but it's dude, I can't find a tournament. It's so hard.
Yeah. And so have you ever opened the US Open app?
I mean, yeah, I have.
How amazing is it?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Same organization made both. right?
Yeah,
I
I just
always
don't
talk,
think a USTA does a very good job outside of the US Open. I mean,
I always that's their bread and butter. That's what they're
yeah,
worried about all year. All their resources
it
are
makes their
guided
money.
around that one event because that's what funds the organization, right?
Well, they got the Wilson US Open ball. The ball is literally called after the US Open. Like it's not a hardcore ball or anything. It's just called the US Open ball.
Right.
So yeah, the US Open is obviously amazing, but like what are you doing to they could have realistically, if the USTA did a better job, they could have 4 tournaments a year that are like that. You know, Indian Wells, Miami. Miami is, did you see the prize money last year for Miami? It was a joke. I mean, COVID obviously hit, but like you can do a better job of that. That's why no one wanted to play the Miami Open last year. It's because there's no freaking prize money. So, I mean, if I'm the USTA, I'm trying to get Indian Wells is obviously a great event. I've been a bunch of times. You know, it's in Southern California. It's not too far to drive. And I've been to Miami Open. Miami Open when it was at Key Biscayne was amazing. And then they moved it to Hard Rock and it struggled. So I think the venue is like half the battle.
Well, and I told Scott this, what you're describing and what we're all describing is a market opening. If somebody could build a one-stop shop that had the video production and it also had the website that explained to parents here, hey, here's where everything is. It basically put it all in one spot and then got people to join it or pay for it in some way. A market opening right there. Because USTA is not going to do what we're describing. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. I think UTR eventually will get to that point. I think UTR should, like if I'm UTR, I'm starting with college tennis. Like as soon
no doubt.
There's probably 5 or 6 big fall tournaments that like all the top guys in college tennis will play. And if I'm UTR, I'm getting play site cameras on every one of those courts. Play site, you don't have to have a camera crew for that.
Right.
Like you just have to have good play site cameras for that. Like it's not, I mean, it's expensive, but you can move them around. You can install them on different courts. Like at the Newport 25K that I'm playing tomorrow, there's a play site live stream camera on every single court. And there's 4 courts that are, and the matches are scheduled, you know, very, very well. So if I'm UTR, I'm doing that with college tennis as soon as fall tournaments start, just to kind of get people introduced.
I'm not sure when we'll put this up. Hopefully soon, but you know, just give a shot. Where is that going to be held? Where are you going to be playing next week?
It's at Newport Beach Tennis Club in Newport Beach, California. Yeah, I mean, I play tomorrow at 8, so that kind of sucks. 8 a.m. But
that's gonna be great tennis and a fans. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm like the draws are already out. And I'm playing a guy.
It's 11 Eastern though, so it's fine for me.
I'm playing Nevin Armilli, who plays 6 for Texas. So like the guy, I mean, you know, it's a good match, and it's at 8 a.m. So it's like,
and I'm not even thinking about the online viewing experience. I mean, I think about. So I'm a big cyclist, and the Tour de France is going on right now. And every time the Tour de France is going on, they always do. They have a camera crew who kind of chronicles the Tour de France, and they put it out nightly. So that night after that day's race, you get to see all that. I enjoy watching that more than the actual race, right?
Yeah.
So watching the actual matches often for fans is not as fun as watching the reality show, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, now imagine I live in California with you, and I've got a girlfriend. I'm 25 or whatever. I've got a girlfriend. I want something to do tonight at 6 o'clock. Your match should be at 6 o'clock. And I say, come on, let's go. Let's have a beer. Let's watch the match. But instead it's at 8 a.m. I guess I could drink my coffee there, right? But dang,
Irish coffee.
I think tournament directors have got to start thinking, how will this affect the fans that are watching, right?
Well, tennis is not geared towards fans, especially like you said, it's not geared towards fans at all. I think maybe at the higher levels at the US Open, but like even like at the Sweet 16 when we were in Orlando, it wasn't necessarily geared towards the fans. It was geared towards, let's get these matches. Like we were there, we got there, I think we got there Friday, and we were supposed to play Wednesday or Tuesday. We were supposed to play Tuesday. So, you know, we have the practice days, and USTA only gave us 3 courts. So we've got 12 guys on our team, right? Or 11 guys on our team. And they only gave us 3 courts the day before the tournament to practice on. So we have guys how are you supposed to, what are you supposed to do with 11 dudes? We're just playing dubs, So
but the thing is, there's 100 courts at the USTA.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you can space it out better. You can give
Yeah.
practice times to different teams where it's like, you can give them 4 or 5 courts. It's not that big of a deal. But I think it wasn't geared towards fans. It was geared towards getting the matches done. And for instance, we were supposed to play on Tuesday. And if we would have won on Tuesday, we would have had a day off.
Right.
And then you play Thursday, you play your Elite Eight match. If you win Elite Eight, you play the Final Four on Friday. Yeah. And if you win that, then you play on Saturday. That's 3 back-to-back days.
Right.
So why is there this? You could put Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Yeah.
You could have a day off in between. And then you can play the girls' matches on the other days. Like it's not that hard to schedule it, especially when you have Tennis Channel. Tennis Channel covered every match after the Elite Eight. Like if they're only going to cover the Elite Eight, then tell them come on Wednesday and you have 5 days to cover this. It's not like anything that's going on during the Elite Eight. Right. There's no French Open or Wimbledon or Roland Garros going on.
It was a captive week. It was perfect week for it, and like I say, and they've got to get better announcers too. As a fan, Katrina Adams and the other guy, the same stories for 3 straight days. It was old listening to them.
Well, again, there's solutions.
I would put players. I would put ex guys.
Give me Ronnie Schneider.
Well, here's
Ronnie
the thing
Schneider. I would throw someone that's in tennis still that played college tennis at a high level.
Guys. I mean, they'd be great for this.
Oh my gosh, Gruskin, Gruskin is hilarious.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is all that what y'all are describing are great solutions. They're not even wanting those solutions, right? I mean, they're easy. How long did it take us to think these up? They're not sitting around saying, "How can we make this a better fan experience?" Because they could easily come up with those solutions. They're just trying to get the tournament over with, right?
From a business standpoint, I think it would take a couple of years to make money off of it, though. I think it would take, so we do this next year, we're going to lose money.
There's no doubt.
It's going to get more exposure. And then the next year we might lose money again. And then we might break even. And then we might start making money.
Well, here's the thing is what you just said is so important. So in our school district, anytime we have like a basketball game and there's something that causes us to want to back it up. So the games start at 7, right? And we say, well, we need to move it to 4 because there's threat of snow or whatever. Everyone's like, no, we can't do that because we want the fans to be able to be there. Well, why do they want the fans there? Because we need the income so we can pay the refs and make a profit, right? We don't make a big profit, but it helps to pay the bills. The reason we're worried about the fans is because we're charging admission. And so one of the things I think that tennis fans are going to have to begin to be okay with is paying a bit of an admission, right? I mean, when you go to our high school tennis matches, there's no admission. And so you know what time the high school tennis matches start? Like 2:30. So we're having to leave work just to get to our child's match. So I think tennis fans are going to have to, if we want a better product, we're also going to have to be willing to say, okay, we're okay paying $10 to get in or whatever.
That's a great point.
Well,
that's a great point because, here in Louisville, they get about 100 to 200, 300 people per match, but it's free. And like you say, they have no incentive to put it at a convenient time. And so we have 10 a.m. weekday matches against Miami, conference matches. But if they're saying, well, if we do that, we're going to lose $2,000, then it doesn't make sense for them to do it.
And if you have 300 people at $10 a person, that's $3,000, and you do that 10 times a year, that's $30,000. So they're going, okay, no, we need this to be at 6 so people have time to get off work and all that kind of stuff. But since they're not charging admission, there's no incentive.
At a school like Arizona, for instance, there's on Friday, Saturdays, or Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, there's a game in almost every sport. So if you go on a Friday night, right, and there's a volleyball game or a basketball game. So I think the important thing is like if I'm scheduling these college matches, I'm putting them like 2 or 3 hours before. So let's say the volleyball game starts at 7, I'm putting it at 5. So then because they can just walk over from the tennis facility, or they can just watch the end of the match. I mean, I think it's very important because let's be honest, not a lot of people watch college tennis to begin with. There's reasons for that, but just basis, it's not watched a lot. So if we want to get people introduced to it that have never seen college tennis and never really played tennis, you got to do things like that.
No
doubt. You got to
doubt.
give up a little bit to get a little bit. So I think
Ole Miss does a really good job of that. They'll have a baseball game, a softball game, a tennis match, all in the same night, and they'll strategically time them so that if you wanted to go to pieces of each, you could, right? Now, I will say this, Ole Miss is one of the best colleges I've been to at caring about the fans being there.
SEC.
Right?
SEC is all about that. I think that's the difference between Pac-12, SEC, and ACC is like Pac-12, it's more about like, okay, let's get these matches done. Let's do this. Like, let's, this and that. But honestly, realistically, SEC is very good at getting fans to their matches. Like you look at, and even like Big Ten is very good. You look at schools like, or Big 12, sorry, not Big Ten, schools like TCU, where they have like record-setting numbers at some of their matches. And I think Roditi does a very good job of that. But
Georgia's the same. Yeah, Georgia's the same.
But to your point, Robert, about scheduling matches in one time. But the SEC has a rule that for tennis, it's a Friday night match, so all matches I think can't start before 4, and they have a Sunday noon match, and so it's great for the fans because
that's perfect.
Great.
Just come after church.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody does, and the matches are usually pretty hyped. And I always tell Scott, I think the best tennis product in the world is college tennis.
Yeah.
But the problem is every time I walk in a college tennis match, I know very few of the people competing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I say they've got to add that component of a bit of a reality show. Like we watched, what was the tennis movie that we watched, Scott, that we liked so much, that with the kids in Little Rock? I've gone blank.
50,000 Balls.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen the movie 50,000 Balls, but again, my child looks at those guys like celebrities. So we're showing up and we're watching TJ Pura, and he's sitting over here stretching, and nobody even knows who he is. And my son's like scared to say anything to him. He's like, "That's TJ Pura," all because of that movie, right?
Yeah.
And so I think they've got to. You can't have one without the other. If you want people to show up, they've got to feel like they're going to watch somebody that they know. This is one of the reasons why I've struggled here lately with college basketball, because they leave so quickly. And there's so much transientness. I don't really know anybody playing, and it's not as much fun to watch because I want to root for the player. I'm not necessarily rooting for the team. Yeah,
that's the cool thing about college tennis is like a lot of guys that you don't really. It's very rare that guys are 1 and done, or 2 and done. It's guys are going to stay for 4 years.
Right.
So,
but I think like, to your point about the 50,000 balls, that movie came out, like 10, 12 years ago now. There hasn't been anything out since then that's similar to that. But during that time, once we watched that movie and we were just, it was really by the time that those guys were, juniors and seniors in college, then there's Ty Kwiatkowski, there's,
TJ,
there's TJ, there's, Joey at UCLA, so you're sort of all that, like you're trying to identify people in the movies and what they're doing now. But if we could maybe, have another something, 100,000 balls, whatever part 2 would be. It'd be great to, sort of just do that, with kids that are coming up, because it's such an amazing story. This, Jett, how hard kids work and what a sacrifice it is, and how unusual tennis kids are compared to the normal, average kids. It's a really unique path that they've chosen. Yeah. And I think it needs to be documented and highlighted and specialized. And, if we can get more documentaries out there, I think it really helps the game. And we have Netflix and all these other things, the Naomi thing. But I want to get a futures, documentary.
Yeah.
Hey, 3 weeks in Illinois in July or whatever. If just follow these guys around and just see how tough it is. It's tough.
Yeah, if you did something like that with like a team like mine, if they follow that around for, they wouldn't even have to do it for a year. They could just do it during the season. If they did it from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and I guarantee you a ton of people would watch. It's like Last Chance U. Have you guys ever seen that?
It's the exact same thing. Exactly.
Yeah, and you watch the basketball one
of Last Chance, or we need a tennis version of.
I think that would help
Formula
a lot.
One or something.
Mm-hmm. Because all these guys go to like bigger schools from the Last Chance U, and everyone knows them because they were in Last Chance U, you know? And I think that would be a very good thing for college tennis. And I also think the colleges just don't highlight tennis enough because
well, it doesn't make money. I mean, it's just like what we talked about.
They're gonna
but this is the reason why there's schools that like aren't motivated to make tennis like more of a highlight in their school because it doesn't make money, and they just know that. They're like, all right, this sport doesn't make money. They're not looking at ways, okay, how can tennis make money?
Right.
Because I bet if they tried hard enough, like if they said you could even give it to a project of like if you could give it as a project to students, like students that are working in sports management or marketing or something like that. You get, all right, here, tennis loses this amount of money. What can we do to make money? And then you give it to the project and see what they say.
Plan to make it break even. Yeah.
Well,
because you could make college tennis break even. I bet you could. Like there's ways, there's fans, there's alumni. There's things that you could do.
Well,
there's things you could
now
do.
with the name, image, and likeness, there's ways to market players and everything. And so
the NLI is a weird thing.
I want to ask a question, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to sort of know, what have you heard from, say, Clancy and U of A on, the name, image, and likeness? How have they
I haven't
to you guys?
I haven't talked to Clancy about it. I mean, we've been introduced, like there was a class on it and things like you have to tell the University of Arizona all of the deals you're getting. But I think for college, I mean, NIL is not something for college tennis players. It's not going to be something that is for college guys, because this is the reason. It's less about how good you are and how amazing you are at your craft, and more about how many TikTok followers you have and how many Instagram followers you have. Like I have friends that, I have a couple of friends, I'm not going to name drop, but they have 200, 300,000 followers on TikTok just because they, made some funny videos, and they're getting deals for clothing sponsorships, and they play at really small D1 schools, and they're 11 UTRs. It's not like they're bad tennis players. They're just like they'll never be a top 100 ranked guy. They're not playing at like a huge D1 school. They're getting paid because they're good looking or something like that. That's what's gonna. And I think even in other sports, you look at like the first deals that people were giving,
a lot of females, a lot
of girls that were really good looking,
2
really
million
attractive
followers
girls
on Instagram.
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
That is not okay. So it is what it is, right? I mean, so why is Anna Kournikova such a popular tennis player, right? I don't know that it's because of her. She was a good tennis player, but I don't know that that's the reason. But what I love is when people all said name, image, and likeness, they kind of freaked out and said, well, Alabama and Clemson they're going to win more. And I'm like, well, they're already winning. Ohio State's already winning. But what I love is there's D2 soccer players that are females that are now getting deals that would have not made any money as a professional ever. And that's awesome. That's good. I like that.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the NLI is really good for people like that. But it has zero, like companies aren't, unless you're like an unreal quarterback at USC, UCLA, Georgia, or something like that, or a point guard at, with a huge name, or someone like Zion Williamson, you're not going to make anything. Like you're not going to make any money.
Right.
But now I went back to remember Tim Tebow. Good gosh, the amount of money he would have made.
Oh my gosh, Zion Williamson. Like but I think it's very good for the NCAA. I think NCAA didn't want it, but it doesn't make any sense to me because if I'm the NCAA, there's less and less people coming to college that play sports because they just go. There's more options like NBA, G League. So if I'm NCAA, I'm doing that all day because there's way more opportunities for basketball players right now to make money on their own than there ever has been. They like Reggie Bush, for instance. I don't know how much he made, but that was like a federal offense when he did that. And now it's like that's pennies and dimes. Like that's nothing.
But so now with this new relaxation of ways for players to make money, has something like you guys they're doing this paid hits thing on UTR,
which is awesome.
Really good.
I've done that. So I signed up for that. I got a
Good.
couple. I've done it a couple times. It's nice. It's fun.
Tell us about it. How does that work?
So it's just they message you, like whoever wants to hit with you. You have to. I think you have to be over a certain UTR. I don't know exactly what the criteria is.
Mhm.
Parsa told me about it, and I kind of did it a couple times. And you can like set your rate. So you can set however much you want to charge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's cool. You make
it's
some money.
great because like before, it was so hard because like I think one of the best things for a junior player is to hit with college players, to hit
Mhm.
with that player who's maybe 2 or 3 levels above you that you would never, hit with in a tournament or just practice with. But it's a good way for that college player to earn some money and provide some
Yeah.
valuable service.
Well, that helped me a ton was in Colorado. There wasn't a lot of juniors, but
Right.
there was this college player that played in New Mexico named Hayden Sabatka. He was an All-American in doubles, very good player. He's a 5-star recruit.
Mhm.
And when I was 13 and 14, I was paying him every day to hit.
Yeah.
And then, obviously once he stopped playing tennis, I had to figure out, that's why I moved to California when I was 14 and,
Okay.
started doing online school. But and then Kellen D'Amico, I don't know if you know who that is, but he played number 1 at Texas. He was number 1 in the world junior, and he lived in Colorado, and I was hitting with him every day. He was coaching me.
Yeah.
So, and he was a 26-year-old guy, and he was coaching a 12-year-old. So there's things like that are just like, they're priceless. Like that you can't.
And the thing is, before this, we would do it here with some of the Louisville players, but it always felt a little bit under the table. And can we be doing this? And where should we do it? And now it's sort of like, well, there's no NCAA can't ping you for promoting yourself.
Yeah.
Now you can go out there and do it. And now kids, it's gonna be easier for kids to find those hitting partners.
There you
go. I saw a tweet though. I can't remember who it was from. It might have been from one of you guys, but it was talking about how the donors and stuff can like kind of pay players now. Is that I didn't know about.
Oh, I don't know. That wasn't us. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw
the way they'll do it is through sponsorship. So
right,
if I'm
if that's what I saw.
If I own a water filter company and I love, Arizona tennis, and I say, well, I'm gonna put you on a sponsorship, and then why don't you just tweet every once in a while? I mean, I don't know that the NCAA has requirements for the amount of advertising you have to do to earn the money you're getting, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's
it's like if there's a booster or a donor at say Clemson, they could say, okay, Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to pay $1 million to come, do an autograph signing at the dealership, and that's fair value. So come on and do it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this, and what I like about you doing the paid hits, right, is prior to this, if you wanted to earn money in college, what were your options, right? I mean,
you had to get a job.
Yeah. And so now let's say you become a waiter at a restaurant, and I'm sitting here going, how much money did you spend to gain the skill you have in tennis, right? And you can't even use it. I don't want to think
about that.
But now this gives you an avenue. I told Scott, I said, this is like Uber for tennis professionals, right? But so I'm on the website. Where do you even go? I've been excited about it, but how did those kids find you?
So I don't actually know. I wish I knew more about it. Parsa kind of told me about it a little bit, and
so you signed up.
Yeah, I signed up. I didn't know that it existed until he told me about it. He texted me, said, "Hey Jett, like here's a way you can make money. You just sign up for this, and then kids will message you." And I got a few messages.
Wow.
I've had it for like 2 months though. So, and I've only gotten 3 messages. So,
and where do you live? So tell me this: where do you live in like normally? And then when you're in school, because we'll get kids that. If you're a kid listening or a parent listening in one of these 2 locations, hit him up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I live in Newport Beach, California now, but, I'm in and out from Colorado. That's where my parents live. So I'm just training in Newport Beach right now.
And what's also great is about this paid hits thing is, if you're a futures player and you're going to be in Tulsa for a week and you get eliminated in round 1, you just made $25, whatever it is. Hey, I'm going to be here for 3 more days. I can hit $100, whatever the thing is. They can probably make more money doing paid hits than they would at the tournament for the most part.
Yeah, even if they won the tournament, they wouldn't make.
Yeah.
And it's just it's sustainability.
I always thought that was a thing because, like, we go to these futures. These guys just sit around, they play a match, and then they're done, and they're sitting around for 5-6 hours, nothing to do really. They could go out there and hit, with a 6, 7, 8 UTR, kid, and still get some quality reps in while they're making some money, and it's also good for for people that want to support those guys on this journey. If I was able to have my son hit with somebody, I wouldn't mind paying a little bit extra just to put some money in the guy's pocket. I know it's tough, and it's a way for us to sort of support those guys that are out there, trying to grind through this.
Yeah, and I think I mean, it would have been really valuable for me as a junior. Like, I remember, as there was kids, as you go up in levels, it's very hard to find hits where you're like gaining a lot, right? So when you start to ascend as a junior, there's less and less players you can hit. And that's why being in an academy is really good, because there's always going to be really good players at a big academy. Like, I went to Advantage for 4 years.
Talk a little bit about that. So I wanted to get this maybe in the beginning, but I still don't want to leave it out. But you grew up in Colorado, got to a certain level when you're 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Then you needed to find something better, right?
Yeah. So when I was 13,
how did you find what you're looking for?
Well, so when I was 13, I was I was getting a lot better. I was still playing basketball though. So I still had that 2 sports. And then, my dad, before 8th grade, he told me, he's like, listen, you got to pick a sport. Like, you got to pick. And I was good at basketball, but I hated it. He played Division II, and he was really hard on me. He played overseas a little bit. He was just, my dad was just but in tennis, he was a lot. He was still very hard on me. As tennis, as just sports parents are, they're very hard on you. He wanted me to achieve a lot. So I was like, well, I think I like tennis better because you don't give me as hard of a time. So then but that's when I fell in love with it, when I started training every day. And I was going in Colorado. I had school at 8. So I'd wake up and hit from 6:30 to 7:30. And that's just the only time, because in Colorado, when it snows, especially during the winter, that's the only time you can find court time, like the only time that's not $60 an hour.
Right.
So I would get up and I would hit with this guy who played for Denver, Alex Klinkenbeard. He was a really good player. He was really good at DU. And I would hit with him from 6:30 to 7:30 every day. He was still in school. So he was still but he was making money. We were paying him. Yeah. So I'd hit with him, and then I'd go to school, and then I would practice in the group that they have. But there was no good players. There was just good coaches. There was a guy named Stephen Nolan who played at Virginia. He was a good coach. He was the head pro there at the club that I was training at. And then, I did that for about 6 months, and I was like, okay, I need to find something different. So we went to the school, and I got a schedule where I could travel a little bit. So I would go for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to Florida and train in Florida at Boca, different academies. And then it was like far away. I had some family issues. So I was like, I had to come back, and I wanted to be closer to home. So then we found this academy that Jimmy Johnson, he owns. He's a great coach. He was like, listen, you can come try it out. And I loved it. There's great players. Like, this is in Newport. So where I am now, I don't train there anymore, but there was some really good players there when I was younger. There was Max McKinnon, Austin DeGiulio, Joe's little brother, who plays at LMU now. There's a ton of really good players, Guy Gomes, who played at Illinois. There was a bunch of, like, when I was 14, it was the place to be. There was really good players. So that's where I achieved the most, I think. And then once I got.
You think that was like the critical time when you needed?
Oh my gosh, it was huge. I think the biggest time where you can improve, I was a 3-star before I went to that academy. I was an average tennis player. And then I started on online school, and I started to get a lot better. I started to grow into my body. I was a pretty fat kid, so I started to grow a little bit and kind of grow into my body, and I'm still growing into my body. But that was from 14 to 16. That's when junior tennis players, that's when they make it or break it. If you can see the potential by the time they're 16.
Yeah.
And
what I think is impressive about you is, just looking at your tennis recruiting page, as a freshman, you're outside top 100, and as a senior, you're, number 30 or something. And so that's great to have that kind of trajectory.
Yeah, I think when I started my freshman year, I was like 240 or something.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the year, I had a really good year that freshman year, and I just kept going up. But the hardest thing is, like, I think for junior tennis players is humility. I mean, for me, I knew I was a cocky kid once I started to win a little bit. And I see it, even I'm at this academy now that's called Tier 1, and there's a ton of really good juniors, and they're just way overconfident. You can tell. And like, the one thing college tennis does is it humbles you really quick, because there's not one bad player that you'll see. Like, even at the lower schools, when we're playing New Mexico State or schools that aren't as good, there's still really good players playing. There's really good, like at Grand Canyon, there's really good players on the team. Yeah. So, like, that's what college tennis does, is it just humbles you.
Right.
And so in juniors, it's a very rare, especially as an American, it's very hard to play as a freshman, like very hard, especially if you go to a decent school. And because as a European, you've played futures, there's way more. You probably played the ITF circuit, so you've played a lot more matches than when you play USTA, and you play 3, 9, or 10 UTRs before you get to the semis of an L2. So I think that's kind of the difference between Europeans and the USTA circuit. So I think 14 to 16 is like the biggest time for junior tennis players.
Yep. I hear that a lot, and that makes a lot of sense.
And if they can stay humble, you can keep grinding, but else you're gonna hit a wall. I think. Yeah, I think that's the thing I see. I mean, it happened to me. It happened to all my buddies. There's a thing where when you start winning matches, you're like, oh, dude, I could do anything. But no, you just won a couple matches. You didn't really do anything. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, hey, I think we had a great conversation. Really enjoyed talking about that stuff, because it's something that we're passionate about, and I know that you are too. But let me ask you, before we wrap it up, one question I'm always sort of curious about is, what is something that you learned in the last year that you've changed your mind about? So, you went through, it's probably a good time to reflect on this, since you just went through your freshman year, but what's something that you went into college thinking that, oh, this is the way things are, but then after a year of it, you're like, well, I've changed my mind about that?
I changed my mind definitely about the coach-player relationship. When I came into college, I looked at Clancy the same way you guys did. I mean, he's from Colorado. I'm from Colorado. Right, I have so much respect for Clancy. I always will be. But I always thought that, a coach and player relationship is just that. It's a coach and player. But the way Clancy treats us, I mean, obviously he's very hard on us. He's the best coach. I think I'm obviously a little biased, but he's the best coach in college tennis, 100%. That's why he's won 2 Pac-12 Coaches of the Year in the award. That's why he did what he did at Utah State. That's why he's doing what he's doing at U of A. But he's also a very good guy. Like, he's a very good guy. He's easy to talk to. You can talk to him about anything. He's, when you're on court, he's a coach, but when you're off court, you can talk to him about anything, have just a general conversation. He jokes around with you, makes fun of you. He's a normal guy. Yeah. So I think that's what I definitely changed my mind about. And even our assistants, they're the same. They joke around and make fun of you just as much as, you guys on the team. So, and another thing is, like, I think chemistry on a team, like, and how close the guys are is half the battle, because I've seen teams that have, all the talent in the world, and they can't do nearly what we did this year. And that's because of how close we were. We were playing for each other. We weren't playing for ourselves. So sure. I think that's what I definitely changed my mind on. I had no idea that was going to be what college tennis was.
So there's a great experience, and I know you have you're fortunate to have 3 more years there. So the best 3 years of your life are still ahead of you. So
yeah, I'm excited.
And we'll look for you guys. Send me information on the tournament you're playing this weekend. We'll put it out for people, and like I said, we just continue the conversation and hope to keep growing the game, and hopefully it's a better place when as we go through this.
Well, Jett, been great to meet you, man. This has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Scott always finds some great guests, and you didn't disappoint at all. So, man, I really appreciate you being on.